With revelations about his past piling up, Congressman-elect George Santos was in Washington in the chamber today, where he had hoped to be sworn in. Our team caught up with the embattled Republican today, but he continued to dodge questions about his background. Kevin Frey in our Washington, D.C. bureau joins us now with the latest on that. Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, good evening, Earl. It was a bit of a game of cat and mouse today. I spent a lot of my morning outside of his closed, locked office. Eventually, he did show up down the hall, saw all of the press that was standing there, turned around, disappeared. We chased after him, couldn't find him again for a few hours. Then he reemerged outside, walking over to the Capitol for the start of the new Congress, and that's when we caught up with him. George Santos silent as he faced the Washington press corps.
Do you have any remorse, any apology for them, sir?
The New Yorker arriving on Capitol Hill for the start of the new Congress, while embroiled in a growing scandal that now stretches overseas. Revelations mounting about lies he told concerning his work experience, education, and even his faith, with investigators at the local, state, and federal level, and now in Brazil, looking into the Republican. The New York Times reporting that law enforcement authorities in Brazil intend to revive fraud charges against Santos, stemming from an incident 15 years ago involving a stolen checkbook. Incoming New York Republicans we spoke with urged Santos to cooperate with investigators.
George Santos has disappointed me. The breadth of his dishonesty is very troubling.
This is an embarrassment. It's a distraction. And it's something that he needs to face. With a soberness and a seriousness.
Notably quiet so far, however, House Republican leaders, including upstate New York Congresswoman and Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, who endorsed Santos. Incoming Democrat Dan Goldman of Brooklyn and Manhattan, a former federal prosecutor, saying this.
So I think the fact that they have not condemned it demonstrates that George Santos is right at the core of this Republican Party.
Now, the one thing Santos did tell reporters today is that he intended to vote for Kevin McCarthy, no matter how many rounds it took for a speaker to be selected. And given how those votes played out today, it's certainly clear that McCarthy needs any supporter he can find on the House floor. Errol?
So now, Kevin, it's fair to say that George Santos won't have much to say to us or anybody else until he's actually sworn in, but that can't happen until they have an actual Speaker of the House.
Yeah, this is a long, drawn-out process, potentially, here on Capitol Hill. Because of the way that things procedurally play out at the start of a new Congress, it's the new Speaker that ends up swearing in the full body of the House. And so at the moment, we're kind of in this waiting game, a state of limbo, as we wait for them to eventually, they have to come to some compromise around some individual to get those 218 votes.
In fact, Kevin, I mean, the gamesmanship, if you start thinking about it, can really get kind of thick. What's your sense from down there about whether or not people want to consider unusual strategies like crossing the aisle to vote for a speaker from the rival party?
So I've asked I asked Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, yesterday when I spoke to him about the potential for engaging with Republicans. And basically he suggested that this is up to the Republicans to figure this out. He was kind of pushed on this again at a press conference this evening and basically said, look, he's not received any outreach from Republicans. They've been whipping their voters on the Democratic side to stick with Hakeem Jeffries. So that is part of the negotiation tactic here. There is another kind of complicating factor as well, that you could have members voting present as opposed to voting for a particular individual. That changes the math as well.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kevin. Thank you, Emily.